The Trump administration is preparing for possible enemy sleeper cell attacks inside the U.S. after Operation Midnight Hammer in Iran. One part of that concern, we now know 1,504 Iranian illegals who were detained at our southern border during the Biden administration were released. More than half of them released into the U.S.
For all we know, they may have gotten sleeper cells into the country during Joe Biden's wide open border. So the threats are serious.
They are here, they are active, and that's what we need the FBI Director Kash Patel to be keeping after for all of our safety.
The administration is being vigilant. Law enforcement across the country is being vigilant. But it is a real danger because we've had 4 years of open borders.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem briefed the nation's governors yesterday. They are grateful for Noem's help as they are having to step up security measures just in case to protect people in their states. Mark Meredith is in Washington, D.C. Mark, I've said it before, all hands on deck.
Harris, it certainly appears to be the case. Good morning to you. The threat of Iranian attacks on Americans abroad and here at home is real. Homeland Security officials have briefed the nation's governors, telling them to stay on alert. We also got a bulletin from DHS about what they're worried about. They say the likelihood of violent extremists in the homeland independently mobilizing to violence in response to the conflict would likely increase if Iranian leadership issued a religious ruling calling for retaliatory violence against targets in the homeland. Already, several U.S. cities have increased their security posture. There is extra security at some places of worship. We know that the NYPD is also watching these developments and tracking some of the diplomatic sites around the Big Apple as well. The State Department, it's also been warning Americans who are traveling or living abroad to exercise increased caution. It's urging people to check travel advisories, which are updated regularly. Top Republicans, including Vice President Vance, say the U.S. is concerned about the potential for attacks within the homeland, given how many people have crossed into the U.S. over the last few years without proper vetting.
We're doing everything that we can to keep our people safe. And this is one of the reasons why border security is national security, is if you let a bunch of crazy people into your country, those crazy people can eventually take action. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that doesn't happen and to keep Americans safe.
Now, the threat of attacks by Iran and its proxies on U.S. officials isn't necessarily new. We saw in 2022 Iran targeting Republicans who helped coordinate the attack on Qasem Soleimani. People also connected to Iran have targeted U.S. officials in 2023 and President Trump himself last year. In February, the White House also warned about this very possibility. The national security team saying Iran has also directed its proxies to launch sleeper cells. Harris?
Mark, thank you. Dan Hoffman is a Fox News contributor and former CIA station chief who served in the Middle East. Dan, thank you for being here. First of all, talk to me about forming a wall against the sleeper cells. What are we up against potentially?
Well, first, I just want to emphasize that one of the strategic implications of the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities was to achieve escalation dominance, whereby we would deter Iran from launching any sort of retaliatory strikes and induce Iran to negotiate with us in good faith, which is something they have not done yet. When it comes to sleeper cells, extraordinarily difficult to track them. It means that we've got to work very, very closely with the intelligence community. That means DNI Tulsi Gabbard has to ensure that her agencies are collaborating together, enabling one another, and then working with state and local and federal law enforcement as well. And for citizens out there watching this program, if you see something, say something. So many times we've been able to detect threats way out left of boom before something bad happens because of a citizen who was on the watch and spotted something that didn't look quite right and informed their local police or the FBI, and we were able to take action and preempt an attack and save folks from being harmed.
We're in a weird position right now, societally. People have seen something and they have said something. And yet they let those university on campuses anti-Semitism rallies turn into near riots and very violent in some cases here in New York, Columbia. So you've had people who've been told, yeah, you said something, you saw something, but not everybody was quick to move. Given this political landscape right now, how much do you think that compromises the ability in some areas to respond and react and work with the federal government to protect us as citizens? I don't want to plant negative seeds. I'm just taking a look at the reality on the ground.
Yeah, I didn't see that when I served at CIA. I'm not sure whether that's true now or not. I think what is important is for the Trump administration to exercise executive leadership on this issue, and we're seeing that with the Secretary of Homeland Security engaging with governors, not just from red states, but blue states as well. This is an American national security challenge for all of us, and for members of Congress to do the same, and state and local representatives to be on the same page here to protect one another. And you don't want to see any rollover collateral damage from things that might have happened in the past impacting a threat that is materializing in the near future.
That's very well put. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Iran's former foreign minister is in Russia today, and he's asking that friend and ally, Vladimir Putin, for more support. Yesterday, the Kremlin warned multiple nations are ready to arm Iran with nuclear weapons. And at a UN Security Council emergency meeting, Russia's ambassador said this.
Russia condemns in the most decisive terms the irresponsible, dangerous and provocative actions committed by the USA against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Washington yet again demonstrated its complete contempt for the position of the international community.
Well, China is echoing that criticism. It claims the U.S. strikes violate the UN Charter and international law, and they are raising tensions in the Middle East. So they're pointing the finger at us, Dan.
Yeah, well, that's the height of hypocrisy coming from Russia, which invaded Ukraine and has launched barbaric kinetic strikes on innocent Ukrainian civilians in their hospitals and neighborhoods and maternity wards. I think in this case, look, this was the Deputy National Security Advisor, Medvedev. I know him well from time I've spent in Moscow. He's even saying that Iran was pursuing a nuclear weapon and that they will continue to do so. I think what he's doing reminds me of old Soviet arms control negotiator back in when the days of the Soviet Union. Max Kampelman, U.S. arms control negotiator, used to say that the Russians or the Soviets used to like to put a boulder in the middle of the road and charge us to remove it. I think Vladimir Putin just wants to remind us that Russia can be hard on us and can try to extort us on an issue of importance to us to try to gain maybe some concessions in other places. I have no doubt that the Trump administration will stand up strong to that sort of tomfoolery.
Dan Hoffman, thank you. Appreciate your time and your expertise always.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.